The Consequence novel, Chad's version. I transmigrated into a crematorium novel, the genre where the protagonist suffers nobly, dies tragically, and everyone regrets it forever after. Real weepy stuff. The system informed me I'd been cast as the designated sacrificial lamb. Work like a dog, give selflessly, die pathetically, harvest regret. So the end goal, I said, is just making them regret it. That's the whole assignment. System, correct. Buddy, you should have led with that. I cracked my knuckles. This is going to be the easiest contract I've ever worked. On day 1 of the transmigration, when the female lead tried to start something with me, I put her on the floor so fast she forgot her own middle name. The system nearly had an aneurysm. How could you do that? Tell me something, I said, pouring myself 2 fingers of whiskey from a decanter that definitely wasn't mine yet. Is she regretting it, or is she not? I'd landed as Julian, except I renamed the guy in my head the second I got the lay of the land, because Julian sounds like a man who apologizes for existing, and that's not the energy I run on. Call me Chad. Chad was the real heir, switched at birth, spent his whole life being quiet, hardworking, and doormat adjacent for a family that couldn't stand him. They doted on the fake heir instead, a guy named Jasper, all cheekbones and 0 backbone. And Chad's fiancée, a woman named Karen, loved Jasper too, while treating Chad like an inconvenience she'd married by clerical error. You already know the type of woman Karen was going to be. Not Karen, as in a name. Karen as in, let me speak to the manager of your entire existence. She'd built her whole personality around being disappointed in people who hadn't done anything wrong yet. In the original plot, Chad gets terminal cancer, hopes the family will show up for his last birthday. Instead, Jasper conveniently gets the sniffles that same day. Everyone abandons Chad to fuss over him, and Chad sings himself happy birthday alone like a Hallmark commercial nobody asked for. He packs a bag, dies quietly in a rented room, and then, only then, everybody feels bad. Parents wail. Sister sobs. Karen's mascara runs artistically. Regret, regret, regret. Curtain closes. Everyone's a slightly better person for having failed him to death. The system explained all this like it was pitching me an Oscar bait script. Isn't it moving? I had approximately 900 curses lined up behind my teeth. I let exactly none of them out. So I'm playing Chad. System, correct. Your mission is to follow the plot precisely and harvest regret points through the most tragic death possible, especially that birthday scene. Elaborate. System, your eyes must be clear and tearful. Your voice, trembling and weak, you must convey the pathetic desperation of a man begging quietly for love. After the humiliation, choke back tears, celebrate alone in a storm, pack your bags with dignity, and, this part is important, clean the entire house spotless first, so as not to inconvenience anyone with your absence. Then wait for death alone, gracefully. I stared into the middle distance for a second. You want me to cry pretty, fold my socks, and die of manners? Absolutely not. I don't have that in me. I once made a grown man cry in a business meeting by asking one follow-up question. Gracefully suffering isn't a skill I own. System, you're a decorated actor, surely. I won that award through connections I will not be elaborating on. I have the emotional range of a parking garage. System, then how do we hit quota? If we fall short on regret points, this entire world collapses. I set my glass down. Let's revisit the mission statement. Goal is regret. Method is negotiable. Correct. A long, suspicious pause. System, technically, yes. I grinned and rolled up my sleeves. Then buckle up. We're doing this the fun way. I opened my eyes to find Jasper collapse dramatically in Karen's arms, gasping like a man auditioning for a cough syrup commercial. I was standing off to the side, saying nothing, radiating the kind of calm that makes guilty people nervous. Chad. Karen's voice hit that pitch reserved exclusively for public confrontations and speaking to customer service. Why did you push Jasper down the stairs? You are actually terrifying. Above her head, invisible to everyone but me, floated a progress bar. Regret points. 0, 0. After 2 years of Chad giving this woman everything he had, sacrificing sleep, money, dignity, and self-respect, and getting insulted every time Jasper so much as sneezed in her direction, 0. Betraying a man for that long without a flicker of guilt takes real discipline. I almost respected it. Almost. He barely gets a shove and he's on death's door, I said, unbothered. Bold performance, honestly. Don't blame Chad, Jasper wheezed, doing his best community theater rendition of a man near death. He only pushed me a little. I didn't expect to be this hurt. Karen ignored that completely and started shrieking Jasper's name like he was a smoke detector she couldn't reach. I pulled out my phone and dialed, unhurried, like I was ordering takeout. Hello, 911, Skyview Manor. I'd like to report an attempted murder. Suspect pushed the victim down a full flight of stairs. He appears to be dying. Please send everyone you've got. Jasper's grave injuries evaporated instantly. Karen, meanwhile, hadn't clocked a word of it. Still spiraling, already dialing the hospital herself. I dialed again, same flat tone. Paramedics? Also Skyview Manor. Man fell down a full staircase, mortally wounded, possibly dying as we speak. Step on it. That got Jasper vertical fast. No need for police, no ambulance, I'm totally fine. I put a hand on his shoulder and pressed him firmly back to the floor. No, you're not fine. You said so yourself 30 seconds ago, and I have witnesses. I really am not fine. I turned to Karen, who was standing there, furious and useless in equal measure. Are you just going to stand there? He fell down the stairs. He needs to lie completely still or the internal damage gets worse. Basic triage, Karen. She hesitated exactly 1 second, then snapped into full bossy supervisor mode, as if she'd thought of it herself. Right, Jasper, stay still. Don't move an inch. Jasper, cornered by his own lie, had no choice but to lie back down. I strolled into the kitchen, grabbed every ice pack in the freezer, and came back to bury Jasper under a small glacier. What are you doing? He yelped. Ice slows internal bleeding, I said, entirely straight-faced, and pressed the hardest, coldest pack directly against his face and neck with the enthusiasm of a man icing a keg. Jasper let out a scream you'd usually only hear at a slaughterhouse. Karen, at the absolute peak of her fury, shoved me. Hard. I went down, elbow cracking against the tile, a genuine bolt of pain shooting up my arm. I looked up at her from the floor. Oh, we're doing this? Okay. Noted. I stood up and delivered a rapid-fire trio of slaps that sent Karen's head spinning like a slot machine hitting the jackpot. Slap, slap, slap. System screaming internally. What are you doing? You cannot attack the lead. She attacked me first, I thought back, perfectly calm. This is self-defense. I have witnesses, a lawyer on retainer, and frankly, better cardio than her. I grabbed her by the collar for round 2. This one's for the shove, this one's for 2 years of nonsense, and this one's just for good measure. Karen finally snapped out of her daze and started swearing like a sailor who just discovered his ship was on fire. Chad, I swear, you do not get to hit. Stop this right now. Requests noted and denied, I said, and kept going. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, whichever one involves getting slapped every time you say the word take. I was running a light brainwashing seminar in real time, one open palm at a time. Take equals consequences. Simple curriculum. She finally got a grip on my wrists and fought back, caught me clean across the face. You absolute trash. You actually think you can attack me? I laughed, actually laughed, and grabbed her fingers, bending them steadily backward with the calm of a man adjusting a thermostat. Hey, hey! Karen's scream hit a register I didn't know the human voice could reach. I'm not stopping, I said pleasantly, until you understand this on a cellular level. She cursed harder. I bent harder. It was less a fight and more a very intense customer feedback session, and I was the customer, Jasper, still on the floor under a mountain of ice, watched the whole thing and visibly weighed whether to intervene. But getting up would blow his critically injured cover, so he stayed put, silently rooting for chaos to sort itself out without his involvement. Smart, in a spineless sort of way. He'd already dismissed all the household staff earlier that day specifically, so there'd be no witnesses to save either of them. No help was coming. For anyone. Above Karen's head, the progress bar finally twitched. Regret points. 1, She broke. Fine, fine. It's my fault, okay? Just let go of my hand. I released her. The system had not stopped shrieking this entire time. I exhaled and gave it a beat. You can settle down now. What exactly is the problem here? System, you've obliterated the plot structure. The goal was regret, I said, gesturing at the whimpering woman cradling her hand on the floor. Look me in the metaphorical eye and tell me, is that regret or is that not regret? A long pause while the system, presumably, checked the number over Karen's head like a judge reviewing instant replay. System, I suppose that counts. Chad, you will absolutely pay for this. Karen started up again, right as the first police sirens hit the driveway, loud, obnoxious, and extremely well-timed. The cars pulled up in front of the villa hard enough to wake the entire neighborhood, red and blue lights flickering off every window in the house. I picked my whiskey glass back up off the side table, took a slow sip, and smiled at the chaos unfolding outside. Some men run from consequences. I just called them in as backup. What followed, roughly, the police pulled security footage that put Jasper's staged fall on record and torched his little charity case reputation for good. Karen's arrest made the society pages before dinner. The hospital found the actual thing wrong with Chad, a brain tumor the family had been too busy ignoring him to notice, and suddenly everyone wanted to have very emotional conversations at his bedside 3 years too late. Chad, unmoved, kept receipts on every single one of them. The scandals, the neglect, the framing attempt, all of it surfaced publicly and in the worst possible order for maximum humiliation. He engineered his exit from the plot on his own terms instead of theirs. No quiet death in a rented room, no spotless house, no dignified goodbye nobody deserved. Regret points maxed out. The system paid up. Chad woke back in the real world considerably richer, and, if you ask him, not even a little bit sorry. Moral of the story, according to Chad, real regret doesn't come from watching someone suffer quietly and die polite. It comes from consequences, delivered promptly, ideally with a police escort and a good whiskey in hand. The end.